I got a phone call from North Leicester Motorcycles on Thursday to say that the batch of replacement starter motor gears were finally in, and my name was on the list for a couple. So I phoned up on Friday, put an order together, got it sent down, and it came by Royal Mail on Saturday morning. And having got some other jobs out the way, I'm ready to swap the gear over. So we come over to the press, and I've got the stack up here. So I've got a bit of tubing at the bottom that will take the shaft, and I've just got various spacers to pack it up to a sensible height. A little bit of tubing fits over the top, so you should just be able to get it nicely aligned under the ram. Take up the preload, and that's just sliding out very nicely. Okay, I think I've run out of travel. Yeah, down at the bottom there. So let's see if I can find another spacer. Okay. So we've got the bearing, spacer shim, inner and outer, the old worn out bronze gear. I'm sure I showed you this previous time, but if you compare it to a fresh one, I mean, this one's actually worn nearly to a knife edge on the teeth, so it's well and truly had it. So I'm going to go and give the shaft a clean, and go and get the bearings, and we'll put this all back together. Okay, now the first thing that's going to go on is the gear, and the shaft is keyed. It's relieved till you get down to the key, so it does just slide on and you can line it up pretty easy. It's not enormously tight on there. As you can see, that's almost a transition fit, but I will have to use the press. So I've got the gear sitting neatly on there. And just a little something to protect the end of the shaft. That's nicely down. Now the next thing is the bearing, and the original bearing was unshielded. Now I always tend to buy sealed bearings because you can always pull the seals out, and I'm just going to pull one seal out on this. There's an oil seal that goes in the housing outboard of this bearing, so I'm just going to give it a little help by leaving one seal in place. The other seal will get a by removing it will give the benefit of the oil in the gearbox. So we need to get the spacers in the right position. giving those a quick wipe. Right, so I've got the inner spacer, the outer spacer. I'll put the bearing on with the unshielded end towards the inboard. I just want to get this started nice and square, and the bearing is in fact not very tight. That's partly on by hand pressure, but it's not going to slide all the way like that, so as you can see, it just dropped on at the end there. You've got a circlip groove on the end to retain the bearing, so it doesn't have to be a tight press fit in there. So that's all ready now to assemble the rest of the gearbox. I've got the gearbox from the starter motor, and there's two more bearings that need to come out of this. One is this needle roller here, and there's another one buried down the back there. Now that one should be a fairly light fit in there, and I'm hoping that simply heating the casing up, which I'll do with a hot air gun, should let the bearing drop straight out. If not, I can actually get in behind it and give it a little tap, though you know the access is a little bit limited. You can just about get onto the edge of the bearing there. The other one, I'm going to make another little tool to use on the press. So I've gone and grabbed some mystery metal from the scrap box, and this really is mystery metal. I don't think you can see on the camera, but it's got a really weird chatter pattern on it from the last time it was machined, and I've no idea why. But you know, it's a silly little bush, so we'll bung it in there and see how it machines, and if it doesn't want to play, I'll go and find something else. So we'll start off by facing the end. Well, don't seem to have any trouble machining that. In fact, by the way the swarf's coming off, it almost looks like leaded stock, so quite why there's a chatter pattern on, I don't know. Okay. Now I just need to measure the outside diameter of, the inside diameter of the bearing, and that looks like 15mm, which would make sense. So I'll take a skim cut and set the DRO. That's a beautiful finish on there. So I would say this is just leaded stock. And, let's put the oil can up. So I'm just going to quickly rough this down to close on 15 and then give it a final cut to a little under 15 so it fits down the middle of the bearing easily. Okay, in fact, someone forgot to press the enter button on the DRO for that last cut, so let's do it properly this time. That's better. We can be fairly aggressive here. Okay, I've got a built-up edge on the tool bit there. That's why it's behaving a little oddly. I'm just going to go and get my diamond wrap and knock that off. I mainly touch my tools up like this with them still mounted in the tool post, and sometimes I'll even do it between cuts, just to keep the tool sharp and clean. You know, there's an old adage that nothing goes blunt quicker than a slightly blunt tool. So let me just repeat that cut, take a slight amount off. and we've still got a pretty good agreement with the DRO, so I'm going to come down to 14.95, which should give me a nice easy slip fit into the bearing. You know, this is really just to hold it centred while we press a bearing in and out. Take the final cut. Just go and break the edges as usual. And part it off. The blade had extended a little bit too far perhaps. Just going to pull that back in. And we're just checking that we can get to the centre of the bar. Don't forget to put the lathe into reverse, because I tend to run my parting tool upside down. And somewhere about there looks a convenient length. And I'm just going to spin this round and break the back corner, take the pip off, and we've got our little tool for knocking the bearing out. Okay, we're over at the press here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat the casing and see if we can get the ball race at the belt back to drop. Because having expanded the casing, it'll make removing the other bearings so much easier anyway. So I've got a very ancient Black & Decker heat gun that I borrowed off a friend. My Ultra Cheapy died and I haven't replaced it yet. They're a very useful source of heat, and you know, safer than an open flame, and controllable sometimes when with a decent nozzle set, better than an open flame. So I'm not going to make you watch the whole of this, but we'll get started. Okay, I've had the heat on this for just 2 or 3 minutes and heard a little tink, and I think we've got the bearing out. Okay, that's still just about handleable, and there we go, one bearing fell straight out. So hopefully this one will be just as easy. Got some spacers in there. Barely even bothering the gauge on the ram, so a lot tighter than the other bearing, but that bit of extra warmth made things easy. Okay, so I'm just going to go and get the new bearing ready to go in. Right, I've got the bearing here, and the lighting's not very good over here by the press, but on one side of the bearing it's got a seal, and the other side isn't, so this side has to go outwards, and I'm going to install it from the inside of the housing and press it down flat to the outside. So I just need to find couple of spacers. I think we'll go with that one, and that one should do the trick. Okay, that's in there, just like the original was, and I can go back to the bench and continue assembling the motor. Okay, we've got the circlip that holds the bearing onto the output shaft. Make sure that's seated into its little groove. Okay, the first thing we've put back in there is the rear bearing, getting the casing hot, and we just have to give it a little tap to get it home. So then we've got the main gear shaft. Just get it slid in there, and again with the casing hot, get the output shaft lined up. We can get it most of the way in with hand pressure, and I'll just take it over to the press to get it fully home. And I'll put in the retaining circlip. And then we have an oil seal. I'll give the shaft a decent amount of seal oil on it, and we'll see if we can persuade this seal in by hand. Okay, the outer's gone in no problem at all, and I'm just going to very carefully use the screwdriver to pop the inner lip into place. There we go. Okay, that's running nicely. And then the next thing is the worm drive, which I'm just going to give a little blow down with the airline. And by just turning the output shaft, got it wiggled down into place, and yeah, that's just feeling nice running against the new worm wheel. And we've got the new gear. Okay, I think what I need to do is go and warm the casing up again, and that should drop in. Then there'll be another circlip, and the gearbox assembly will then be done. It's missing its little rubber fill plug, and I'm probably just going to make a little plastic one, and then the gearbox will get filled with a suitable gearbox oil, compatible with the bronze, as I mean they just about all are these days, and that will be the gearbox all sorted.